So Mark Halperin is part of our new MK Media Network, which I'd love to ask you about because you run a very successful media network. And he had his first show on Tuesday, and his second show is today. He also does a show on YouTube called Two Way, and he broke this news earlier today. Here's some of it with some more context, I believe. SOT 7.
3 different people have confirmed that the plan now by the White House is to remove the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, who was on Fox News this morning, just not that long ago, and his deputy, Alex Wong, and much of the current staff team at the National Security Council because of unhappiness throughout the national security establishment of how they're doing. This was around before Signalgate. It was widely reported that Signalgate, ironically, may have saved Waltz's job. As I understand it from my sources, a general belief that it's not being run efficiently in an organized way. It may happen as early as today. It may not happen ever because it's Donald Trump, but the plan is for it to happen soon, maybe this weekend.
So it's very interesting. He's saying they wanted to dump him before Signalgate, but Trump didn't dump him after that because he didn't want to look like he was being reactive to the nasty media.
He'd be reactive. I feel like if he's not, who knows? I mean, I could see this still not happening. I feel like I see reports of things happening that never does, and then they'll jump on and be like, shame on you, media, for reporting this.
Yes.
So who knows? I just looked at X. It's the number one thing. Yeah, shocking, I guess, but I'll believe it when I see it. Tim Walz, number one thing.
Well, we're definitely getting
Mike
to that.
Mike Waltz has left the chat.
Is he your man speaker?
Who?
Tim Walz?
No, he is not.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, my man speaker?
You know how he said he came out yesterday and said he was the man that Kamala selected to speak to guys like you, white men of America.
That's crazy. I didn't see that, but no, he failed miserably in that realm.
You didn't connect with him in that way?
Nobody connected with him. Nobody did.
Here's what he said. Let's watch it. We'll go from Mike Walz.
I can't believe he's still talking.
To Tim Walz. Here, let's watch.
I was on the ticket, I would argue, because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota that improved people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of those votes.
But you could be giving them permission on TV every day. You could have been messaging that way, and that isn't necessarily how it shook out.
Well, yes, but I also said I understand myself. I said I think I'll give you pretty good stuff, but I'll also give you 10% problematic. And so somebody's got to make the decision here to handle some of this stuff and to make it in. Those are just decisions that were made.
Boy, that's delusional. I mean, that's wildly delusional.
Why?
I even thought that. I mean, I knew he had the football thing, but he doesn't speak to a normal guy. He doesn't act like a normal guy. His mannerisms weren't like everyday guy. There was no part of him that connected to what a normal guy is talking about or interested in. And by the way, normal guys can see through that pretty quickly.
When you're trying to play the normal guy, and you're not.
I mean, I remember hearing that he was like a football coach, but even that was a strange coach, the story behind it. So it didn't really work out. And that anybody, by the way, with a brain could have screened him for 5 seconds, been like, this is the guy that would, I don't know who they have in the party, by the way, that would have done that, but you could have screened him. And anybody could have said that right away. But that is one of the problems with the Democrats.
They're going to like the Pete Buttigieg's of the world to say, is this a man that regular American men can relate to? And he's like, yes, that's our guy.
I'm trying to think who on the Democratic side I would be like, yeah, that's the guy that resonates.
I mean,
There's gotta be something.
You could run it by a man like James Carville. He's got the ability to say,
yeah,
that's not going to resonate with middle America.
The old Massachusetts governor, Baker. He was a pretty normal guy. I don't know why he went to the NCAA, but I would say he was a normal speak-to guy.
So you don't think the jazz hands is like...
Jazz hands is not the thing. I mean, he had a lot of things go. He was one of the worst candidates. The whole ticket was bad.
Yeah.
That's why they lost. But yeah, that is, and that's not even a political thing. That's just if you just pulled a group of guys out of a bar and we're like, are you going to be friends with that guy? Most would probably be like, no, we're not. So, and that is, again, has nothing to do with politics. It's just the vibe he gave off.
Yeah. Well, on top of all that, what does it say about the Democratic Party that they thought the guy who would speak to white guys in America is the guy who mandated tampons in boys' rooms throughout Minnesota?
They're off. The Democratic Party is lost. So, I don't know. It's interesting because I didn't even know that they were trying to speak to people like, I guess, me or our crowd, if you want to say that's like who Trump spoke with. I didn't even know they were attempting to do that during the election. That didn't seem like something they were interested in. So I didn't know that was why he was brought on to do that.
Well, remember he put on the camo hat and he did some video where he was gaming and apparently he stunk at it. But he went out with a gun and was going to go hunting, and it was very obvious to all Second Amendment people he was not familiar with a gun. He couldn't load it.
I remember the one when I thought it was Kamala. They asked her what kind of gun she had, and she didn't answer it correctly. But that's very politics 101. That's, I mean, all the way back, the mayor of Boston was called like Sammy Sousa and all the wrong names.
I know that one.
Yeah, they pretend to play a character that they're not, which I don't know who gives them that intel. I think people would much more respect if you don't pretend to be something you are not.
All right, but that's politics. So let's say they come to Dave Portnoy next time around and they're like, how do we reach regular guys and convince them to vote Dem?
I mean, you can't demonize them. I would say, like they've been doing it for a long time. But if you're saying men, and when people are asking me that, I think they generally are talking like white, middle class, people working in financial districts. There's a shame that comes across of saying you were in a frat, and by the way, not all frats are good, but wanting to make money, wanting to have a good job, wanting to spend money, be rich, all that stuff is not necessarily bad. I think that has been a message that comes across like, yeah, we should be kind of ashamed of being a white guy. And I don't think what they fail to understand, that doesn't discount that a white guy like me or any can care about a lot of the issues that Democrats care about. But I'm also not really going to apologize for being like a white guy in this country who wants to have a good job, make money, go to college, do all those things. And that is a message that seemingly like you can't be both. Mm-hmm. They've never, Biden all the way through, it felt like a lot of the issues that get blamed and problems in America is always like our fault.
Yeah.
And we don't want...
Remember, even when the black vote wasn't going as strongly for Kamala as the Dems wanted, and Barack Obama showed up at that polling, that campaign office and was like, you're a bunch of sexists.
Yeah, right. Well, and they've said it, they're deplorables and if you vote for Trump, you're a Nazi and things like that. I don't know if that's exact, but things...
No, that's literally what's been said on CNN by people like Don Lemon
and then
friends.
It's like, well, you're talking about more than half the country. So it's clearly, then you should move if you truly believe that. And that's the messaging that we've gotten from them. And somebody like me who... I'm always in a weird box because I don't consider myself political, but I'm talking about more and more. Like, I could easily take out the candidates. I grew up in a Democratic household.
Same.
My father, I've said a million times, hates Trump. I am somebody who you would think would vote Democrat. But as I got older, especially like running business and doing stuff, they just kept pushing me to the point this election, it wasn't, like, I wasn't wavering who I was going to vote for. I was voting for Trump. And even I would still re-vote for Trump, no questions asked. That's how much I hated the other ticket.
You may not want to see this, but Kamala Harris is also back in the news. And you tell me whether we dodged a bullet with this woman, where she took to the stage last night at this group that's pushing to get more females involved in Democrat politics, running for office. And here's how she sounded. SOT 15.
I heard about this.
Watch it. You'll enjoy it.
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago? The one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it.
Well, yeah, this is...
So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me what you've been thinking about these days. Well...
Yeah,
So in the video, for those who haven't seen it, here those elephants were. And as soon as they felt the earth shaking beneath their feet, they got in a circle and stood next to each other to protect the most vulnerable. Think about it. What a powerful metaphor. The lesson is don't scatter. The instinct has to be to immediately find and connect with each other, and to know that the circle will be strong.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, that was a lot more of her campaign speak in which she said a whole lot of something, but really not saying anything.
Yep.
And also the moral superiority, which even in that comes through, is another, like the way they lecture. And I don't like politicians in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think probably if you had 100 politicians in a room, maybe like 2 are like truly in it for the right reasons. But the moral superiority, when like what they did in the election, which the way they all lied about Biden and his mental health for years, and then they waited, so there's no like she would never win, and well, she'd never won an election, but she would never win a fair primary with the Dem. That to me was their biggest mistake, because who knows who could have come out of that. But it's lecturing people like they're angels, like they're perfect. They know better than anybody, like what's best for you. And that we're stupid because we see what the Democratic Party does, and it's just such a turnoff. And say whatever you want about Trump, and people may say other. I feel like he's him, and like even with these tariffs and stuff, like he campaigned on tariffs.
Yeah, he was
so
clear.
So then to be like, what are you doing with these tariffs? And I'm like that because I'm in the stock market. It's like I want my stocks to go up, but it's like he said he was going to do it at least. So they're just, if you did authentic and took the Democrats and the Republicans, to me, it's not even close. And that's part of how I end up voting Republican.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. And volatile markets like the one we have now don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped so many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long is it going to take to get out of it, and at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.